lined up, ready to send, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
I kind of figured out, eventually how to basically get that going on, but there's always when I go back to do it again, there's always some, thing I'm not doing right or.
Sure. Sure. Who else? All right. So envelopes. We'll address that today. We'll talk about that today. Who else? What other issues are people having with DocuSign or frustrations are people having with DocuSign right now? Feel free to unmute yourself. All right, this is going to be a real easy class for me then.
How can
Dan,
I
as you know,
my-
I'm brand new, so I have no idea what the thing even does. So
Okay. All right.
101 would be great too.
Sure. All right, Carla.
how can I create my own templates to put my own papers in a folder or template, something like that?
Okay, we're
gonna
not
be
going to
easier
talk
to
about
find.
templates today, but we are going to do a class on creating templates for like creating your own templates. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
That is a feature of DocuSign, which is also really nice, that we didn't have with Dotloop actually, and it can make using DocuSign like even easier than it is right now. So, but we are going to do that in a different class, not today.
Hey, Dan,
Yeah.
it's Stephen. I have a client, a buyer, and I've put in 19 offers on 19 different houses.
That's fun.
16 different houses, and 3 of them had multiple offers that we put in.
Sure.
And doing that in DocuSign became a nightmare.
Why is that?
That's why I want to talk to you about it, because
Okay.
doing every offer as an individual opportunity. That meant I had to have all of the basic documents, such as exclusive right to represent buyer. I had to pull it out of the previous offer and put it into my new opportunity. You know, the typical forms that go with every opportunity that you have to submit to the MCA. Does that make sense? You know, steps and forms, the wiring advisory, the health alert. So, and so I had to do this multiple times for each opportunity. Is there a simpler way to do that? Just with the basic? Okay, great.
All right. So yeah, we'll talk about using documents for multiple versions is essentially the basics of what you're saying, Stephen.
You got it. That's right. Thanks.
Okay.
That was my question too. Putting in different, multiple offers and having to redo the work. Is there anything that we can do to simplify, to move it along faster?
Sure. Okay. What else? What other struggles or frustrations are you having right now with DocuSign? Is that none?
The best way to if you make an error on a form, instead of doing it over again, what is the best way to strike through a date / number, whatever, and send it back? I have my own way of doing it, but maybe you know of a trick or simpler way to correct or update a form.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So let's start with some basics here. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you. And well, first what I'm going to do is I wasn't planning on really getting into Command, but we're really going to focus more on DocuSign today. However, since one of the questions was about creating multiple opportunities, Stephen's question about creating multiple opportunities when you have, a buyer that's, nope, that's not correct. That's, submitting offers on multiple properties. My basic answer to that, Stephen, is don't create multiple opportunities. You create one opportunity because that's really what you have is one opportunity. You have one opportunity to sell one buyer, one home. Now, if it takes you 16 offers to get there, that's fine, but you don't need to submit 16 offers to the market center. And you really only have one opportunity. So when we come down here into our opportunities in Command, and I'm not going to get into all the details of creating the opportunities, et cetera, just because that's not really what we're here for today. So for those of you who are looking, who don't really understand what I'm doing right now, we do have other classes for that. And look for classes for our Command specific training. We have classes on opportunities, how to set this pipeline up, how to set, you know, how to create your phases and your stages and upload and connect documents and everything. So I'm going to create an opportunity here. I'm going to make it a buyer opportunity. And let's see, Stephen, if I don't know if I have you in my command, but let's see. I don't. So let's see. I'm going to use Tiger instead because he's on my screen. So I'm going to select Tiger as my buyer. All right. I've got Tiger here. It always adds that space to your name for some reason. All right. I'm going to say you have a $500,000 budget. The commission rate's 2.5%. All right. And I'm going to put you into the active phase. And I'm going to put you as a 30-day. That's just my stages because I use this as a recruiting pipeline. But let's just say that you're a buyer, right? So now I have this information in here. Now, Stephen, when you have a buyer, I wouldn't really worry so much about the and this is, you can quote me on this, right? I wouldn't worry so much about the opportunity in Command until you have the buyer like agreed upon. Like once you have the opportunity created, once you have the you know, like the basic documents set up, right? So when we come in here, we need to pick our checklist, right? We have a Connecticut buyer, and it's going to give us all of the documents, right? The only thing that we need to really have here at this point is the exclusive right to represent and the agency disclosure form. So I wouldn't worry about bringing anything else into this opportunity until you have an agreed offer, like an agreed deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to save you a lot of headaches and a lot of time. And really, like, until you have that accepted offer, like there's really nothing else to do here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if I want to now, and I'm having trouble viewing all of these things, so let me try to squeeze my screen here. So if I hit start my transaction, that's going to bring me over to DocuSign. Are you guys seeing the new DocuSign window now? I see a few people head nodding.
Yes.
So now bring us to DocuSign.
Yes, yes.
All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
So when we have to insert two buyers together, how do we do it through command to DocuSign? That's my problem.
You wouldn't do it through command to DocuSign.
Oh.
You can have multiple buyers on a
One listing.
on one opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You have a space here to do co-buyer.
Oh.
All right. So you do have the ability to do that. So now when we come in here into DocuSign, when we do things from command, it's kind of nice because it'll automatically bring in like that whatever information we do have in command into DocuSign, and it connects the rooms together. So what is essentially done is command has now created a room within DocuSign, which is where I can put all of the stuff. And if I come into the details section here, I'm going to see whether or not it actually did it. But if you look into the details section is where you're going to put all of the information for the property. So you have buyer one here. If there was a second buyer, that person would have gone into, you guessed it, buyer two, right? And then we have buyer agent one, Dan Raposo. It automatically brought in my business phone number, my email, the company information, all right? And the reason we want all of this information here is because it's going to make filling out all of the documents easier when we actually go to fill out the documents. So if you have any additional information, like if you have your phone number, if you have a company or a property address that you want to put in here, you know, you can add this here just by hitting this edit button. And what that'll do is that'll add all of that information to the forms whenever it's required. So the way DocuSign has set these up is every single one of these fields, if I click this edit button here, every single one of these fields has been tagged to the documents. So if there's a place for it, like on the documents, for instance, there's going to be a place for buyer one. All right. And so DocuSign knows when you go to create that document, if there's a field for buyer one, it looks back into this section to see whose name it is, right? So it's like buyer one name, and it will automatically pull whatever information is here and put it into that field for you, so that you don't have to create, you don't need to input all of that information for them, like for every document. So now the other question that you asked, Stephen, was, okay, well, what if I have multiple forms, right? So I'm going to just kind of create some basic forms here and get buyer. So I have the exclusive right to represent. I have the agency disclosure. I'm not going to do that, but I'm also going to bring in the, I'm going to bring in, I prefer the standard form real estate contract as opposed to the offer to purchase. So I'm going to bring those three forms in. I'm going to create those three documents. So now it pulled in these three forms. And when I come in here to look at the exclusive right to represent, it's going to allow me to essentially fill out the basics of this form, this document. So as you can see, it automatically pulled in Tiger's name and it pulled in my name. And that's because it puts the buyer's name here. But what we really need here is Keller Williams Realty. That was a mistake on DocuSign's part, where they tagged the agent's name there instead of the agent broker or agent company is what they should have tagged for that. So you just need to fix that real quick. I'm just going to put a single family house, all right, as the property type. And I'm going to say Fairfield County. You can put in the dates here. So we'll start it today. I'm going to go till the end of the year. All right. And you can say, and in here you can put, all right, so I'm going to put, or 3%. All right, within 120 days. All right. None. All right, I don't have a fax for him, so that's fine. So the broker and firm name went where it's supposed to be. The address information went where it's supposed to be. I didn't put my phone number in there, so I'll put my phone number in here as the agent. And I didn't put in an address for Tiger in the client details, and I don't have an address for him in command, so it didn't pull that information in, so I would need to put that in here. All right. Oh, you're in Reading, aren't you? I don't know the zip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
Yes. Oh, okay.
It's fine. It's an example.
Yeah.
All right. And so now I've filled out the exclusive right to represent buyer. I hit save. And that form is done. Now, if I have, let's say now I've been working with him for a while and we're about to fill out the standard form real estate contract. And this goes to answer Stephen's question, right? Let's see, Raquel's going to be our seller. She is she owns 246 South Main Street, let's call it. That's in Ridgefield. All right. Buyer's there. The real property address is 246 South Main Street. I should have given myself a shorter name. I didn't have to type all of this stuff in over again. As per MLS. Okay. And then you fill this out just like you would typically fill out any any document. And, you know, this is no different than .loop. This is no different than using zip forms, a fillable PDF. So, you know, this isn't really any different than what you're going to do. So it's a $500,000 purchase price. Let's say he's going to put $5,000 down. He's going to do an additional, let's say, $20,000 on contract. Contracts are to be signed, let's say, within by the end of the month. So we'll do 8/31/2020. All right. He's going to get a bank. He's going to get a bank loan of, let's say, 80%. So he needs a loan of $450,000, and he's going to put an additional $25,000 down at closing. I'm sorry. He's doing 10%, so that's $50,000. So 10% loan. We're going to check all the boxes like we normally did, right? 3%. Oh wait, sorry, 450,000 here. Term of the mortgage is 30. Contingency date will make it 9/15/2020. Closing date will be 9/25/2020 in Fairfield County. All right. Contract date is today.
Hey, Dan.
Inspection contingency date. What is today? The 13th. So we'll say 8/30. We'll give ourselves 8/28. Give ourselves 15 days for those since people are going. We're going to check all of these boxes. All right, of whatever we're doing. None. All right. And then we're pretty much done here. The only thing that we'll need to add is if we want to add the seller's agent information, we can add that all here. All right, attorney information, we add that all here. I'm not going to do it just for the sake of time. But now we have the offer done. So once we've completed this offer document, we want to send this stuff out for signature. And that's where envelopes come in. There's two ways you can send things out for signatures. The first is by clicking this dot here and then hitting the little pen icon right here that's called DocuSign. That's one way of doing it. If you do it this way, what ends up happening is DocuSign creates what's called an envelope. And the reason DocuSign keeps envelopes and documents separate from each other so that you can do exactly what you're talking about, Stephen, which is have multiple versions of documents and sign documents at the same time. So you can use the same, as opposed to like in .loop, where if you were to have 16 offers, you would literally have 16 documents that have all been signed or not signed or whatever. The way DocuSign has it set up is you can essentially have the one document, and then there will be 16 versions of it. And as you go through and you're losing these versions, you can archive those just like you can with .loop or pretty much any other system, right? So the only thing that we need to add here, so when we create an envelope, so because I used the pen version, like where I selected the document when I was in those rooms there, and I hit the little pen, it automatically took whatever documents I had selected and it created an envelope for them. So I'm going to call this the right to represent. All right. I need to add a recipient. So I'm going to go into pre-tagged roles here. And I'm going to say buyer 1. And I'm going to select, I'm going to come down here, and because I added Tiger into the details, I have Tiger. I'm going to hit add selected, and it's got his email address in here. If you don't have these people in command, well, I'm going to show that to you in a little bit. All right. So we have now buyer 1 on here. And if you want to do another, let's say, add buyer agent, I'm going to select myself for that. All right.
Yeah, could you mute that iPhone?
Sorry?
Mute that iPhone, Linda's iPhone.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like she muted herself. All right. Now, when we click next, here is the big difference. When DocuSign separates out the signature portion from the document creation, and here's the reason why. because they are actually two separate things. So DocuSign has multiple products that it allows you to use, and we're actually getting access to two of those. The first is DocuSign Rooms, which allows you to kind of use electronic documents and store them. And then the second is e-signatures. So envelopes is actually a product, is actually technically a separate product from the DocuSign Rooms. So that's actually kind of an advantage, because if you don't want to go through command and the rooms and things like that, you can just use DocuSign e-signatures. If all you want is to get a piece of paper signed electronically, you can do that.
So just log directly into DocuSign and go right
Yep.
to
And
the
I'm going to
envelope.
show you that. I'm going to show you guys how you can do that as well. I'm going to show you the shortcut version of this. All right. So this is now looking at, we have two people here. This is the envelope. So I want to create all of the signature pieces for Tiger to sign. All right. So I'm going to come in here. He's got nothing to sign so far. Nothing to sign so far. And there you go. At the bottom of it, you're going to see him in blue. So everything in blue is Tiger. And just because I'm particular about these kind of things, I'm going to size this properly so that it doesn't block other stuff. And I'm going to move the date signed onto the line over here. And now I'm going to do the same thing for me. If I click on this thing, it shows that this is the recipient of this is Dan Raposo.
Did that automatically put those fields in there, or do you have to? Oh, okay. So that's if you're going right into DocuSign, you mean?
Yep. So because I used the when I added the recipients.
Oh, the pre-tag. Yeah.
Because I used the pre-tagged roles, it automatically adds those fields. It knows where those fields are and it adds them to it. So if I don't, let's say I'm going to delete Dan Raposo as buyer agent or buyer agent. And I just do room participants and I don't do pre-tagged roles. All right, we'll do that as an example. Now I've just essentially just created more work for myself because now I'm going to have to add that, right? So you're going to see Tiger McNeil here. You're now orange. All right, buyer date signed there. All right, but I also have another person here, which is Dan Raposo. And so I can add a signature box by just clicking all of the, anything on the left here, you can add to a document.
So when you add the, you just have to click pre-tagged, in other words, just to get the other way.
Yeah, and if you click
Okay.
pre-tagged, it will then automatically input all of the fields and stuff for where they're going to sign so that you don't have to go through it automatically.
Okay, yeah, it's huge time saver. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's exactly. All right. And I'm not going to actually send this because I don't need Tiger to assign me as his buyer rep. I don't know. Maybe he's trying to represent himself on something. You know, I don't want to take that away from you, Tiger. All right.
What a guy.
So, all right. So I'm going to back out of this now. All right. So Stephen, now to answer your question, let's say I've sent this to Tiger. I've sent this over to the, you know, and it doesn't get accepted now. And I need to do it again. I can come in here under the Documents tab, take the exact same form, change it. All right. So now the seller is now David Lee. And we're looking at 12 Front Street. I have no idea where I come up with these. All right. And let's say everything else is the same, so I don't have to mess with it, right? It automatically changes 12 Front Street. It automatically changes this other stuff in here. Now I hit save and close. Now this isn't showing is that I would have a version of this that had been signed by Tiger from the previous offer. All right. So I'm not eliminating that other offer. Like if I have something that has been put through an envelope and signed, it creates its own version here. so that you have that like solid version that you can always go back to show that it was signed and dated properly and everything else, right? But if I want to now come through and create a new envelope, well, I'll do it the other way here. I can come into envelopes and click new. It's going to create a new envelope, and I'm going to call this 12 Front Street offer. I'm going to go to room docs, standard form real estate contract. Again, pre-tagged roles, right? Buyer 1. Sign that to Tiger McNeil. All right, I'm not actually sending it to David for his signature, so I'm not going to add his information there, right? And then I click next. So it's now got it's sent. It essentially looks just like it did the other one, right? So this is actually, so I'm not sure why this one came in here, but all I have to do is delete it, right? So Tiger, this is showing that this is for Tiger, right? Because we're looking at Tiger McNeil here in orange. All right. Tiger's supposed to initial here, initial here. That looks fine. That all looks fine. That all looks fine. All right. This all looks fine. And now we need buyer signature over here. That all looks fine. All right. And we're good to go. And I hit send. So you can and you can obviously just ignore this. Now I hit send this time around because I want to answer the next question, which is fixing mistakes on the forms. So once you've sent somebody like an envelope to somebody, you know, was that your question? Like once you've sent something to somebody, how do you fix it if there's a problem or change it? I don't remember.
Tells me, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I come in here and I realize, oh crap, you know what? Tiger's actually putting 20% down. If I go back into the offer, there's a button that says right here, right? So if I go back into the, if I go back into my envelopes and I see, and Tiger calls me, he goes, Dan, listen, I got your offer. I was reviewing it, but you said I was only putting 10% down. I can say, oh, my mistake, right? And I can click on the envelope, hit correct, and now I can come in here, view it. Oh, yep, he's correct. I did that, right? And now I can come in here and edit things. I have kind of two options now to fix this. I can write in the envelope markup tools. Strike through and say, okay, he's going to do that. He's going to do that. That's correct. He's going to put that 5% there. But on this, I actually want this to say 50,000. So I'm going to leave that there. All right. And then I'm also going to need to strike through the loan amount because he's not actually putting 50% down. He's putting that there. And so you can redline all of these things just the way I'm doing, right? That's one way of doing it. Oh, whoops, I just hit the wrong button. So I'm going to go back into edit signing fields. All right. And then I can just add text next to it, right? So I could say this is actually going to be 400,000. Can add another text box saying 50,000. And I'm not going to make this a required field. I'm going to make that read only. Same thing with this one here. because I don't want him actually doing anything with that. I'm just changing it. All right, so I'm going to change those. That's one way of modifying the document once you've actually created the envelope, is to just do it right in the envelope. Through the correct button. All right.
Dan,
Yes.
so that's like a little messy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So the other way of doing this, so I'm just going to send this the way it is, right? And then I'll save and close it. The other way of doing it is to actually coming back into the document and editing the document itself so that it's not as messy. So you go back into the Documents tab, you go back to the original document before the envelope, and you edit it here. Or that should have been 75. I didn't do my math correctly. Okay, so now if I hit save and close, and then I do the exact same thing like I did before, I just create it as a new envelope and send that out for signatures. And that's I personally think that's the easier and the cleaner way of doing it. Again, same difference. Pre-tagged roles or room participants, you can choose either one of those. If you have somebody you want to send these to for signatures that's not part of the thing, you can just do it straight by email address by just putting in their name and email. I've been using I mean, how many people in here have just used to use Dotloop for just like sending random stuff to random people that they needed something signed, right? Yeah, like I used to use it all the time. You can do the exact same thing with DocuSign. It doesn't need to be tied to command. Like you can use DocuSign the same way you did with Dotloop to just send stuff out. You can upload any document you have, add signatures to it in the envelope and things like that, add those fields, add anybody you want to it via just adding them by their email address by putting in their name and email.
So don't go through command, just go right into DocuSign.
Yeah, and just go right into DocuSign, which is what I was gonna, which is the other side of this, right? So.
Oh, hey, Dan,
Yeah.
before you go on to that,
Sure.
if you have a document, so this only works, that documents field where you can put all the information like your buyer's information, the address and all that, that only works with the files that are automatically uploaded to command, or I guess to DocuSign. Like if I had a file that's not there and I upload it from my computer,
Yes.
it wouldn't work that way, right?
No, it would not. So, so it's only going to, when you come into, I just moved really quickly through that, I think. When you come into, yeah, like, so if I wanted to upload, like say a random document, it's not going to automatically input all of the information from like the client details portion into those things because it has no idea what your document is.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Oh, there's no way to, because there's a document that I use. I use the smart, the MLS purchase agreement.
Yeah.
That's not there. And so if that's the one I go to, can I create the links or does that have to get done through the office?
No, you can create your own templates.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's what you're
So
saying.
you can upload your own documents and create your own templates, and we are going to be doing a class on that soon.
Okay. You said,
Those
okay.
would all come into into this section called My Docs up here. All right. Like, so I've created, I've been kind of learning how to do this. I've been doing all of my onboarding, obviously, via DocuSign and things like that, right? Since I wasn't able to physically meet with people. And I'll tell you that I've onboarded over the past 3 months 22 people, 23 people, all electronically, all using DocuSign.
And you did that through templates, your own templates.
And well, no, I didn't do it through templates because I didn't know how to make them until now. Like I've just been now learning how to create my own templates so that I don't have to, like, so for instance, on the binding sponsorship agreement, which is my favorite document to mark up, to create, I had to add an initial button on every single one of these lines, right? So when I'm done, the onboarding documents have 148 fields that need to be signed or initialed or filled in by a new agent. 148. And without templates, I had to create every single one of those 148 fields. Now, here's what I'll say though, is if you know your documents well, it would only take me maybe 15 minutes to create my documents and get them sent. So if I was able to create 148 fields in roughly 15 to 20 minutes. So it's really not that big of a deal to have to if you know how to do it, right? And if you've gotten used to it. And so by the time I've done my 22nd onboarding via DocuSign, I kind of had an idea of how to do it, obviously, right? So that's why I was able to do it in 15 minutes, which is 15 minutes is like nothing. I mean, people waste 15 minutes a day just looking at their cell phones probably, right? So it's like everybody has 15 minutes until they're in the moment where they need to get that document out because they've been rushing around all day and they need to get it. And now all of a sudden 15 minutes feels like forever, right? But yeah, so we are going to be doing a class on creating templates. And that's the kind of the easy fix for what you're talking about. Because here, like for us, DocuSign has like DocuSign, like all of these forms, like the Smart MLS forms, for instance, are copywritten, right? Those are copywritten forms created by the MLS. So in order for DocuSign to like manipulate those, they need to actually get permission from the MLS in order to add all of the fields and have it all synced, which is why it took so long for us to get DocuSign to import all of our information, all of our documents. And why there's still documents that we've requested that still haven't been set up by DocuSign yet. Because they have to, and so you have to imagine they're doing that not just for us, but they're doing that for the other 1,000 market centers. Right? And that was the big delay over the past year, was getting 1,000 market centers DocuSign accounts set up and all of those forms approved by all of the hundreds of MLSs and real estate boards and real estate commissions. And right, like you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of companies and boards and things like that DocuSign had to go to get permission to modify the documents, because those are all proprietary documents that, so, and here's the thing, we had to do the exact same thing when we got .loop. It's just, it wasn't as much of a time crunch and it wasn't as much of a, but that's why we also paid for .loop for like 6 months, after the transition, or more actually. It was back in September. So it was like almost 9 months, because DocuSign was taking that long. But the vast majority of the documents you could use. So I believe the MLS standard form contract is in here, but I don't know if the MLS, because most of the MLS forms should be in there. But again, I know that there are some things that are missing. So if there's a document that you use on a regular basis, that's a standard form from either the MLS or from a board of realtors or a KW form that it's not in DocuSign, let Deb know about it. Get her a copy of the form so that she can send it to KWRI for them to start processing it. All right. All right. So we discussed fixing errors in the form. Everybody okay on that? Fixing errors when you make a mistake or when you need to change something?
Yeah.
Comfortable with that at this point?
Yeah.
All right. Doing each offer separately. Steven, what do you think of that? Is that easier?
Yes, yes, thanks, Dan.
By just modifying it in the documents tab and then creating a new envelope to resend it to them, because you got to resend it to them either way. But by modifying it in the documents tab, the only information you have to change is whatever the information is for that offer, right? All right, so we got that handled. Templates, like I said, we're going to do on a different one. I kind of walked you through the basics of using DocuSign, which was David's question. Here's what I'll tell you. If you have an actual transaction that's happening, it's much easier to start in Command and go to DocuSign from there, because then that's how you're able to connect those documents and everything, right? However, a lot of people I would say the number one complaint I get from agents is that, why do I have to do all of this stuff when all I want to do is send an offer, right? Why do I need to add them into Command and create an opportunity and start the transaction and all of those things? And my answer to them is because that's the way you should be doing it. That's the way a real business should be run. You should have every single client that you work with in your database. Why aren't they in your database already? If you've been out there showing them houses, why aren't they in Command already, right? So now, that being said, I know that as much as I would love for every single one of you to run your business as efficiently as possible, I know when it comes down to it, you're all going to run your business however the heck you want to run it. So here's the shortcut that I'm going to show to you all. If you don't want to have to deal with Command, you don't have to. So I'm going to close Command. I'm going to close DocuSign. I'm going to open up a new window to share with you. If all you want to do is send out an offer, just do it in DocuSign. You're going to go to DocuSign. Oop, I can't see the window because I got all your pretty faces in front of me too. All right, so you're going to go to DocuSign. In the upper right-hand corner here, you guys see where it says, you all see where it says login? You're going to log in. You're going to put in your credentials. And it's going to bring you here. So DocuSign automatically brings you to the e-signature portion of DocuSign. If that's all you want to do, if you already have if you already have an offer already filled out, you can just hit send an envelope right from here. You don't have to go any further. You can just hit new, send an envelope, and here's what it's going to do. It's going to open it and it's going to create a new envelope for you. You can then upload templates, upload documents, or you can use a template. So this is where creating your own templates comes into play. So because I'm an agent in the Stanford Market Center, or any of you other agents who are in the Stanford Market Center, you do have some templates created that the office has created for you. All right. So you can pull documents in from there. So let's say I want to do an offer to purchase. Got the Connecticut purchase agreement, exclusive right to represent buyer, agency disclosure. All right. And I'll throw in the lead paint disclosure brochure as well. And it'll add the documents right in here for you. Now, here's the thing is, once you do this, all you can do is send for signatures. You can't actually edit these documents or anything like that, right? So you can only send things out to get signatures. So that's not very helpful. So the other thing that you can do is go straight into rooms. And if you click on your profile in the upper right, you go to switch to rooms. It now brings you to the DocuSign rooms. And you're back right where we were before. And you can do everything the way we did before. Here's the only difference is that it's not gonna you click on rooms. It's not gonna have all of the client details in there because you didn't come from command. So when you go to create a new room, you know, who do we have here? I have Michelle. There. And so Michelle's ready to make an offer on property. So I'm going to edit. It brings you right to the details. I'm going to come in here. I'm on the buy side. So buyer 1 is Michelle Milton. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 7, 8, 9. Her email is blah, 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 blah at kw.com. Her address is 123 Main, blah, blah, blah. All right, you're gonna put in their information here, right? Buyer 2, there's nobody. Buyer agent 1, again, it doesn't pull anything in from DocuSign, so you now need to put this information here. But my recommendation is still to put all of the information into client details because you're gonna have multiple documents that it's gonna use this information on. So it's easier to put it in one time here than it is to put it into all the individual documents. All right, and then I'm just gonna hit save. So just as an example, so I obviously didn't put in all of the information, but when I come to the documents, I can click add documents, go to DocuSign forms. Now Raquel mentioned that she likes to use the MLS purchase agreement. Is that what you said, Raquel? It's right there. All right. So I want to add that form, but I also need the buyer representation form. So I'm going to go into the KW folder. I need the agency disclosure. Oh, the buyer isn't in this one, so I've got to come into DocuSign groups, buyer docs, Connecticut buyer. And I got exclusive right to represent. We got our agency disclosure. You got KW offer to purchase, and you also have this one. So, but I wanted to use that other one, so I'm going to use those instead. Okay. The only one so I have the right to represent. I have the agency disclosure. The only one I'm missing is the version Raquel likes, so I'm going to use that one by coming back.
So you can add forms from different libraries.
Yes, you can.
Wow. Okay. That's great news.
Right. It's important, because listen, Stephen, I'm the team leader in Ridgefield, but I'm an agent in Stanford, right? So I have access to both, but it's important for me to be able to have access to both, right? And to maybe even use forms from different versions. So now that I've created these documents, again, I didn't put in all of the client detail areas, right? So it's not gonna. I didn't put in all of the client details, but I did put in some of them. So I put in Michelle's name. I didn't put in her address, but a home, whatever, blah, blah, blah. 3%, 120 days, none. Never mind. Kelly, I didn't put in the listing agent company. I didn't put in the listing. So now I have to add all of this stuff in here, which is why I mentioned before. It's a little bit faster if you actually put this information into the details portion, because it would all be there right now and I wouldn't have to fill it out now. So I'm going to save and close that one. Michelle, I love your new email address, by the way. Same thing here, seller agency. This form, there's nothing in here because I didn't put any property. I didn't put in Michelle's information, remember? Her address information. So there's nothing here. So guess what I have to add now, right? She lives at 123 Main Street, Ridgefield. That's why I say it's easier to just go to the client details portion, put in as much information as you have, because then DocuSign will fill in the rest of it for you. Okay, so it knew her name. It put in her address. It put in the property address here because I just filled that in on that last form, remember? All right. But I still need to fill in all of this information here. But it's all there. It's all fillable. You fill it all in. Save and close. Come into envelopes. Create a new envelope. You go to the room docs. Select everything I want her to fill and sign. So all three. I'm going to do room participant. What did I just click? Pre-tagged roles. Buyer one. So here's the thing. Some of these documents, like the agency disclosure form, for instance, the seller one and buyer one are the same line, right? Because if you're representing a buyer, it's the same, like the buyer signs on the same line as seller one. So what I recommend is if you have one person don't put them in multiple times. If you have somebody signing, only put them in as one thing. Don't put them in as multiple things. And the main reason for that is because it's going to the main reason for that essentially is because they're going to it creates like weird signing loops essentially. Like if you put the same person in as multiple different roles, it won't allow you. So just put in one person as one role. So buyer one, Michelle Milton. All right, I'm going to add selected. And I'm going to click next, and I'm going to be able to go in and make sure that all of the signature and initial and checkbox fields and everything are assigned to her properly. And then we're done. And then we hit send. So you have to remember, so I would say, does anybody have any questions about that? About what I just did? That's the basics of using DocuSign, right? And here's the thing, I'll tell you all. You can use it because we have hundreds of agents using DocuSign right now effectively. And I know that for a fact because Rick is getting all of the broker signatures from hundreds of agents in the brokerage every single day to sign, listing agreements, to sign the purchase agreements as the broker representative, right? So he's getting these signatures every day. So people are using it. Now, some people are obviously going to be using it more than others because they're busier and they just have more business and things like that. So here's what you can do is if you want to get used to doing this, just start doing it for fake people. Go run through the process and see, okay, where do they hit a snag, this and that, right? The other thing that to remember too is the biggest hang up I think people have is that they get the document section and the envelope section crossed and get confused with that. Just remember that when you create, in order to edit the documents and change the documents, you have to do that in the documents section, right? Envelopes is just adding things that your people have to fill out, check, sign, initial, things like that, right? So if there's something for you to fill out, you do it in the documents section. If there's something for your clients to fill out, they're going to do that in the envelope. All right. Now, the complicated part with that is that for like property disclosures, for instance, right? Guess what you can't do? Go in and check all the boxes for them and then send it to them just for their signature. Because that's not the way it's supposed to be done anyway, right? Like they're supposed to be the ones checking the boxes, filling it out. If you want to walk them through it, that's fine. But yeah, you're not going to be the one checking all the boxes for them and then just sending it for them to sign at the bottom. And there's a reason we want you to do it that way. All right. All right. Any other questions around DocuSign other than the templates, which we'll have a different class on, a separate class on?
I have one question.
Sure.
When you do it outside of Command, right? The way you just go directly to DocuSign. When you move forward with the deal, you input your client's information into Command. Can you upload those signed documents that you signed outside of Command through Command? Does that make any sense?
No, so that's the difference is that in order to connect Command in DocuSign, you have to start in Command.
Okay, so then I guess the workaround is to just download it to your
Exactly.
and then upload it that way.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the other thing that you can do too is in DocuSign allows you to combine multiple documents into one PDF.
Right.
So you can just select the documents, hit combine, it'll combine them all into one PDF. So I kind of like that. Like that's one thing Dotloop wouldn't let you do. So like if I had the property so if I was representing a buyer, I had the offer to purchase, I had the property disclosures, I have the lead disclosure, I might have a cover letter that I have my clients write to the seller, right? I have 4 different documents. I have their pre-approval, right? In order to create one PDF from all of that, I either need to download all 5 of those documents and use a separate program from Dotloop to combine them, or I need to print them all and then scan them back to my computer. And then in order to have one PDF with all the documents. Those are really the only 2 ways of doing it. The nice thing is that DocuSign will do that for you. So you can just select the 5 documents in DocuSign, hit the combine button. It allows you to put what order you want them in, and then you hit save, and and you can even title it different, right? So
yeah, the only downside to that is if you're saving it to your computer, then when you go back into Command, how you have to individually upload documents.
You could do it as one PDF if you wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Just upload listing documents. So if it's a listing and you want to upload, all of the listing docs, like the agency disclosure form, just upload everything and just say listing doc and just put it in there and title it listing docs. And then when you go to submit it to the market center, just put in a comment in there saying, hey, Deb, I had these all signed separately outside of outside of Command, like everything's in one file.
Got it.
And as long as everything is there and filled out correctly, she's not gonna be like, well, she's not gonna make you go back and break them all out and re-upload them individually and stuff like that. Now here's the thing, KW is not gonna appreciate that, but we don't really care. Like what I care more about right now is this being easy for you and easy for Deb to manage.
Awesome, thank you.
Hey, Deb, I have a question.
All right, we'll go Silva and then Tiger. Sorry, Tiger. She's better looking.
The property disclosure.
Sure.
So I upload it on the document sign as a pre-fill so that they can actually fill it out on their end.
Hold on, let me clarify. So you have it filled out already?
No. I would like to send it in a pre-fill format so that they can pre-fill it on their end and sign.
So do you mean like, so you want to send it to them in a way where all they have to do is check the boxes and yeah, that's how you do it in DocuSign.
I know, but I was never able to do it successfully. So can you share your screen and show me? Because you just said 2 things that contradicted each other and I completely got confused.
Sure.
My understanding is that you can have a pre-filled document in the document section, not in the envelope.
Yeah, so you don't, so again, like I said, so I think I might be getting confused by you keep using the word pre-filled. The only thing that you can fill in as an agent is in, like, you can fill things in the documents section.
Yeah, and I would like the same to pertain to them. I would like for them to have a fillable version of it.
They do get a fillable version of it. You just don't see it as fillable until you go into the envelope. Let me show you. Let me show you what I mean. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the property disclosure form. So all right. So the property condition report, when you open it up in documents, the only thing that you're able to do is add in the seller information here. You can't check any of these boxes. You can't add any of this information in here, right? But that's on purpose because you're not supposed to, right? So,
Okay.
right, so that's the name of the seller. So you hit save and close.
Okay.
But here's what ends up happening, Silva. When we go here to actually send it to the when we go to send it to the sellers,
Okay.
it becomes fillable
Okay.
because the sellers are the ones who are supposed to fill it out.
Okay.
So I'm going to just select Michelle as the person here, as the seller, because she's already in the room. So when
Okay.
I add that disclosure form and I add her as the seller and I hit next, you can see all of these are highlighted yellow. It means that when they get this, it's going to have they're going to be able to actually check these boxes. So
Got
you
it.
can't do it here, but if you go to recipient preview, you can see, okay, this is what the seller is going to see. And I actually love the way DocuSign does this because it actually guides them. They have to go step by step and make a selection. This just takes forever to load because of the Zoom, because it's a Zoom share, but. All right, so if they click on start, it's going to bring them down here to initial 1, and then they're going to click on that. All right, initial 2. They get to check these boxes, etc. All right. Now these aren't required fields because not all of them are required, depending on the property, right? But now they get to actually check these boxes.
Okay. Got it.
All right.
So it is important where you take it and how I upload it. Yeah, I got
Exactly.
it.
Just the
So
key,
much.
the key thing to remember is you fill things out in documents, clients fill things out in envelopes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah,
All
it
right,
does.
cool. Was this helpful, everybody?
To
One
me,
thing.
it's very helpful.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
Tiger.
thank
Yeah,
you.
you had a question, Tiger.
So for compliance, you want all signatures first, right? You want to, don't send anything, is that right? Everything filled out? I mean, except for, you know what I mean? Like, I think in Dotloop, couldn't you, when we're putting our documents together and send it to Deb for compliance?
What do you mean?
Isn't she supposed to see what you have in your setup in DocuSign to make sure that it's all good?
No, I mean, you really don't need to. I mean, you don't really need to be sending anything to her until like you have you shouldn't really be sending stuff through command until you have like either a signed listing agreement that's going up on the MLS or a buyer who's like going into contract, really.
Yeah, that was my question, right? That's
Yeah,
the
I mean, you don't need
criteria.
to be sending her all of your documents before you send them to the
Right,
client
okay,
signature.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Sound
Just
good?
clarifying between Dotloop and DocuSign, that's all.
Yep, no worries.
Dan,
Yes.
so are you seeing though the most efficient way for all of this to sort of function is really have them in command, because DocuSign can pull over the information to fill it out?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the most efficient way of doing it is to start in command.
Okay.
And I say it's the most efficient way of doing it because I'm assuming you already have your people in command. Now, if you don't, there are some things that might not sync between command and DocuSign. So like as an example, like 3-4 months ago, like just the basic client information wasn't syncing between the two. So you would create an opportunity and it wouldn't even have the person's name in the client details, right? So command and KW and DocuSign have been working together to make that tighter. So now it at least is bringing in the basic client information. But I think, you know, when it comes down to it, everything has to go into command eventually.
Right.
So, you know, for me, I would rather spend. I'm a believer. I'd rather invest the time now than have to do it later. You know.
So it's a good sort of routine to get into is not that you have to put everybody in, but if you have an active, situation, whether it's buyer or seller, input them pretty much immediately in command.
Yeah.
And then all the paperwork, the DocuSign paperwork sort of fills automatically.
Yeah, and I think the way to look at this, right? Like, I talked to an agent yesterday when I asked him, well, what kind of system are you using to make sure that you're not losing clients or forgetting potential clients? He goes, oh, well, I use my cell phone for that. I said, well, how do you use that? And he goes, well, I have a note that he created in like the Notes app on his iPhone where he puts everybody's name. I said, okay, well, where do you okay, so you have everybody's name in a notes. I was like, are there some people that you maybe forget to do that with? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay. And I was like, in the notes section, do you have like their cell phone, their email address? Are you keeping all of that stuff in there too? And he goes, well, no, I'm just really keeping their name and like who they are, like what they're looking for. If they're a buyer, if they're a seller or whatever. And I said, all right, but so where's that information? He goes, oh, well, it's in my cell phone too. It's just in the contact, right? And I was like, okay, so how are you then marketing to these people, making sure that you're not how are you marketing to them over the long term, right? If this is a seller and you go to end up working with them, at what point do you start marketing to them? And he goes, well, I mean, I don't really have a system for that, right? And so for me, it's like I like to tell people, listen, that we don't live in a perfect world, but and we're not all perfect agents. Hell, I'm not a perfect team leader. There's people that there's agents who have referred an agent to me that I probably called 2-3 times and then gave up on, right? We're all human. Like we're not perfect, but shouldn't we at least try to be better, right? If we know there's a system out there, we know there's a way of doing things that will bring us results, shouldn't we at least try to do those things, right? And we know that if you take as many, if you put as many people as possible into a database of some sort and you market to those people consistently over time, you will get business. So why wouldn't you want to add every person who comes into your world to a database so that you can market to them on a regular basis, right? Now, in that world, everybody that you could potentially be working with is already in command, right? Every time somebody says, hey, like my sister's thinking about selling her house, you'd be like, great, what's their information? You'd put them into your cell phone and then you'd add them to command. And then they're already in there so that you don't have to do things multiple times, or or so you don't risk losing those people. That's all potential business. And we know that all you need is about 8,000 people. You have 8,000 people, you can have $1 million business. That's what it takes. All right.
Thanks, Dan. I have to
Any
jump.
other questions around DocuSign? All right. Well, I hope this helped a little bit to tame the devil a little bit, right? To calm it down, put a collar on it, teach it to sit. Next time, we'll work on templates, and that'll be teaching the devil to roll over, right? All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Reach out to your MCA office or agent services department if you have any other questions about this stuff, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Dan.
everybody.